Over the past 75 years, more than 10,000 chemicals have entered our food supply, but the EU allows just 300 additives. At Thrive Market, we prioritize quality, banning over 1,000 ingredients found in conventional grocery stores. Our Healthy Swap scanner helps you find better versions of your pantry essentials without the junk, dyes, or fillers, and everything is delivered right to your doorstep. So shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health at thrivemarket.com/get started for 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. The show is brought to you by Audible.com. You go to audibletrial.com/Opperman Report. You go there, and you get a free audiobook. Tonight we are live on TalkStreamLive.com, PSN Radio, Wolf Spirit Radio, Talk Superstation, AwakeRadio.us, the whole Awake Radio family, which is AwakeRadio.us, AwakeRadio.uk, 1800 Online, Shizaz Radio, Just Us Radio, and Scottish Sovereigns on the Land. Okay. Then throughout the week, we're replayed on Para X Radio, Saturday night, 7 p.m., Penny Entertainment on Blog Talk Radio, Sunday mornings, 10 a.m., Firehorse Radio, Wednesday nights, Late Night in the Midlands on Tuesday afternoons at 4 p.m., and High Point Radio, both on AM and FM, covering New Jersey, but in New York and Pennsylvania. Coming soon, we're going to be on twice a week on Cave Radio, broadcasting, Northern Lights Radio, and FPRNradio.com will be playing our podcast. Now, tonight we have Dave McGowan, one of our most popular guests. One of my favorite guests, too. He's a lot of fun. He knows that one seems to be tuned into the same kind of stuff. So anybody that agrees with me, I love him. Okay, he's the author of Program to Kill. He gets my sense of humor, which is very unusual. Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon. And what was that one about the understanding the F word?
Yeah, understanding the F word.
Okay, we're going to be with Dave in a second. Now, don't forget, we're a listener-sponsored show. You can help support the show by donating. You go to OppermanReport.com and look for the donate button. Or you can reach out to us at OppermanReport@gmail.com and send us a PayPal donation. Okay, because we seriously need your donations. We have a lot of opportunities, a lot of shows I could be doing. We're really plugged in with people on the Jeffrey McDonald case, with Catherine McDonald. We're going to be talking to Jeff from prison. We're going to be talking to Alan Dershowitz and Barry Scheck on that case, and Cyril Wecht. And so we're really plugged into that case. I'm doing a show about Ted Gunderson, with people he lived with. We're going to have a whole bunch of guests on that show. These are going to be taped, produced shows we want to put together, but we can't do this without money. So we need your funds. We need your donations. You can also sponsor the show if you want to place an ad on the show. So contact me at OppermanReport@gmail.com. We'll talk about placing an ad on the show. Okay, let's see what else here. Okay, coming up, we just did a show with Daniel Estelan about the Bilderbergers. It was a specially pre-recorded show. We're putting that together with an update from Reverend Pinckney. The update with Reverend Pinckney is available on my Spreaker channel. You can go there right now on Spreaker and check that out. He called us from prison today. We recorded that. We're putting that up. And next week we have a police officer from New York named Ike who does a crime scene tour in New York City, and we're going to be talking to him. Coming up this week, I'm going to be on Heart Fisher, Heart Attack, and Sunday morning I'm going to be on The Ignorance Equation with Nick Katsouris. We're going to be talking about police brutality. But enough of that, because we got a really big guest, Dave McGowan. Dave, are you there?
I am indeed.
Dude, man, it's good to hear from you.
Good to be here. I'm getting some, or I was getting some strange audio anomalies on my end here, but it seems to have cleared up now. I don't know if you guys are catching that on your end.
Yeah, I had that at the beginning, too. That was really unusual. I don't know what it was, but I think we're cool now.
Okay.
So, okay, now, Dave, we invited you on to talk about the moon landing hoax. I know you've done a lot of research on it. So
I have indeed, yeah. I'm really curious to know, though, before we launch into that, given that, as a private investigator, I know you've worked a lot of criminal cases, probably, alongside both defense attorneys and prosecutors. And I'm just curious to know if you have followed at all the first couple of days of this Boston bombing fiasco of a trial and what your take is on that.
Well, you know what? The only following I've done is I've read your post that you wrote today, outlining,
really?
outlining what you thought about it, and I think you're on target, man. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen, and you're right.
I mean, I was just absolutely stunned that his defense attorney. Well, actually not, because there's other examples of that in my writing. Other cases, similar cases that have been that it's also happened where the defense attorney leads off her opening statements by declaring her client guilty. I mean, she said, yeah, he did it, but he did it for a different reason than what the state says, basically was her argument. And, which is, I mean, there's very clear parallels there. I know I can't think of them offhand. Well, actually, one of them, the Boston Strangler case where F. Lee Bailey basically went in and declared his client guilty when he hadn't even been charged with the crimes. So there's definite parallels, and what are the odds that this gal who's defending him also just happened to be on the defense team of Eric Rudolph and Buford Furo, the Jewish center shooter, and Jared Lee Lochner, the Arizona shooter, and Zacharias Moussaoui, or however you pronounce his name, and what are the odds that this same gal just seems to pop up all over the country at these high-profile, rather questionable, criminal trials, and the first thing she does is basically sell out her client and declare him guilty right off the bat, and the testimony is just extraordinary. I mean, it's these people are just blatantly perjuring themselves, and it could be so easily demonstrated, It's just unbelievable. You got this cop, spinning this tale about how he was the one who found Crystal Campbell and put a jacket over her and stayed with her till midnight or some such thing, which is not only blatantly contradicts the photographic evidence, but contradicts the accounts that were given initially by the supposed first responders, who spun a completely different tale of her injuries and how they were treated. And this witness could be so easily impeached. All any defense attorney has to do is start flashing the photos, in sequence on the screen. It's all captured on film, how she was handled. And, I mean, all you got to do is put the pictures up there and say, could you please point out for the jury exactly where you are in these images, Show us where are you here where Crystal Campbell's body is, where exactly when did you put the jacket over her, and where are you in this picture of her body being wheeled out of the scene, it's so the guy is just blatantly lying, and it could be easily demonstrated by any defense attorney worth his salt that the guy is just blatantly perjuring himself, and yet and he's not the only one by any stretch of the imagination. As far as I can tell, every witness they've called is. I'm just wondering when's Carlos Arredondo is going to take the stand to spin some crazy tale of his, and yeah, it's unbelievable that something like that could be taking place in the America that we all know and love. It's extraordinary.
This is the America we know. That's the problem. But if you would think, though, if there was ever a case where you could try and raise some reasonable doubt, this would be it, because there's all these it's all over the internet. There's all these contradictory photos and videos and fake blood, But I guess they can't go down that road. They must have made some kind of deal, because his uncle, you know what this guy's uncle, right? Ruslan?
Uncle Russ, is that, or Ruslan, or whatever,
Ruslan,
something, whatever. I'm not sure exactly what his name. Yeah,
Ruslan. Yeah. Well, you look into his background; it's right in your face,
Yeah, I mean the whole thing just absolutely reeks, and there's just so much. There's such a huge body of photographic evidence that could be presented. That I mean, the kid's got the best defense in the world, right? You know, it's like I can't be guilty of this crime because the crime was never actually committed. You know, it's so yeah. It's just it's remarkable. It's just I'm just I can't even believe what they're. And the amazing thing is they're not even selling the same lies that they sold originally. You know, it's you got people in there spinning completely new versions of reality, which are like the original ones are contradicted by the photographic evidence, but just they seem to just be scripting this as they go along or something. It's remarkable, really.
Yeah, because you know what? Because this kid, he has his mother and his aunt and stuff. They're out there trying to say, "Hey, nothing happened. This kid, my son's innocent." So he has supporters, but they must have made some kind of deal somewhere along the way that they're going down this road. It just makes no sense.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's quite a spectacle, and I mean, all the attorneys on both sides absolutely have to know that these witnesses are perjuring themselves. I mean, they brought in these two cops that were never even part of the narrative before, that show up nowhere in any of the pictures, and spinning these tales of being first responders on the scene and what they found and all that. And we're like, what happened to the first responders that they were talking to? What happened to like this doctor guy, this supposed doctor? I can't even remember his name now. Who, was spinning all kinds of crazy yarns about Bowman and whatnot, and Campbell. And what happened to the first responders whose accounts they initially were selling as the truth, and now they're bringing in like totally new people to sell completely new lies. It's amazing. It's just yeah. So anyway,
then they have that one-legged dancer writes a public letter. Like you mess with the wrong person. It's very well-timed letter, very emotional, well-timed and well-circulated, viral letter. I mean, the whole thing is just, wow. It's scary. It's disturbing and scary to think that, not only could they sell this highly dubious event to the entire world, but then follow it up with a trial that is just a complete sham from beginning to end, and it's like, I mean, it's more and more. It just gives you a feeling of powerlessness, and seeing all these cop shooting videos that seem to pop up every other day now, and it's a scary world out there, It's like. They can just, they can just, the state can just act with impunity these days, The police can serve as judge, jury, and executioner, and even if you get a trial, there's no guarantee that it's going to be anywhere close to a fair trial, And it's scary. It's getting really scary out there. You know what, man? I agree with you. It is getting scary out there. And we're both about the same age, and it just seems like things are getting steadily worse as we move on every day. And you're right, we have videos, tapes now of cops just, they shoot this homeless guy. The guilt is all over their face,
Oh my God, the one in L.A., right? I mean,
yeah.
Just a few days, that was just unbelievable, man. I mean, the guy's on the ground. He's been beaten. He's been tased. He's got 4 burly cops restraining him. And then just for no apparent reason whatsoever, they all just open fire on the guy.
And let's not forget the crime that they responded to was that he tipped over another man's tent. And that's what caused 10 cops to show up and start beating the crap out of people.
Yeah, it's just it was unbelievable. And then yesterday there was another one that's barely made the news yet, where the guy's like pulled up to some suspect, and cop didn't even get out of his car. He just opens fire through the window of his car and just shoots the guy dead for no apparent reason. Unarmed. I don't know what the alleged crime was, but, it was at the end of a short chase or something. They pinned him down at the end of a cul-de-sac and just pulled up next to him and opened fire, according to the account in the Times today. It's just, It's just unbelievable. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
how blatant does it have to be before one of these cops gets actually charged with some kind of a criminal offense, or at least loses their job?
Yeah, well,
It's just-
10 years ago, if they shot someone unarmed, that was something to be outraged about. But now, unarmed means nothing. It means nothing if they're shooting unarmed people anymore, because half of
I
they're
know.
shooting are unarmed.
All they have to do is say, "Well, you reached for my gun."
Yeah.
You reached for my gun, and that's it. That's all. It seems to be all they have to say. You reached for the officer's gun. He was grabbing at the officer's gun. And,
Yeah.
and that's justification.
Yeah.
Whether it's even true or not. That seems to be the go-to scenario now. That they, So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's. Yeah, I mean, I think they claim that, and the gal, where was it? The teenage girl, she was like 16 years old or something, sitting in a car with her friends, and the cops pulled up and just opened fire on her through the driver's side window, just shot her to pieces, sitting in the driver's seat of her car. And I think that on that one they claimed that she was going for the gun, which was like contradicted by the circumstances and by the witnesses. But that seems to be all they have to say, and it all gets swept under the rug. The people will get out there and protest for a week or so, and then something else happens, and everyone moves on.
Yeah. And I saw your post. You were saying that maybe they're doing this to desensitize us, and to make us frightened. Maybe they are. We don't, what I mean? Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, it's got to have a certain chilling effect on people to see that, this going on, how commonplace it's become, and how blatant it can be, and yet still, the cops are backed by the department, and no charges are filed, and
And a lot of people support them.
There's never,
A lot of people.
And the other cops around the country see that too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're seeing that they can get away with anything.
And people will post on Facebook, "Well, thank God for the police are there to protect us." They have they may not come home tonight. All this crap, Hey.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. There's anytime they pop up on YouTube or Facebook, there's always strings of comments from people saying, "I don't understand why people just can't respect the authority of the police and follow directions.
Right.
And none of this would happen. All the guy had to do was follow the orders." And, like, wow, man. It's scary. It's really, we're being driven more and more into to just, wholeheartedly supporting the police state and even embracing it, It's, it's a scary world.
It is.
None of which has much to do with the moon landing. But
And speaking of world, okay, I'll segue to that. Yeah, because we like to do shows on here, covering historical events and to put them in perspective. And it seems like the moon hoax, which I think just about everybody will agree it's a hoax, especially I've been watching stuff, preparing for the show for the past 48 hours. But it seems like that was kind of the start of this whole thing of the government pulling stuff over on us and being able to get away with it in a really large way. Because the cover-up with the moon hoax is just as bad as the cover-up with these police shootings and this Boston bombing thing.
Yeah, it is pretty extraordinary that they were able to pull such a massive hoax, at such an early stage, technologically speaking. We were pretty primitive back in the 60s, and just with the use of 1960s technology to be able to successfully pull that off, and then to keep it in place for 45, 46 years later, to still keep that propped up there is pretty extraordinary, and that had to be emboldening to a large extent, to realize that they could pull off such a massive hoax, and that wasn't even all that well constructed, and yet, I mean, it really speaks to the power of the media and the power of voices of authority and people's willingness to want to, to believe that that they're not being lied to, and
they want to believe in heroes. They want to have heroes. They want to believe we're the good guys. The Russians are the bad guys. And meanwhile, NASA was run by a bunch of Nazis, and Jack Parsons, this Satan-worshipping occultist, you know.
But people don't want to believe that either.
Oh,
you
forget it.
know,
Of course
I mean, they want to keep their sanitized view of America, and you know, and this great accomplishment that we made in the '60s, which just one of many great accomplishments, and people want to believe. You know, I mean, we're indoctrinated from birth to believe that we live in this exceptional society that's just, light years beyond any other civilization that has ever existed. You know, we're just better in every way, and people want to believe that, they really want to believe that we are the special ones, and that our leaders mean well, and, that the media and academia and the legal community and everyone else isn't just blatantly lying to them.
It's funny too, because as soon as you go to Europe the first time, or South America, and you meet people from other countries, and they just got that smile on their face, like, "Hey, dude, you're such a fool." You believe you Americans think that you're the center of the universe,
we think that we're the most well informed because we honestly believe that we have the freest, the most independent media apparatus that's ever existed, and we routinely demonize, the media in countries that are in opposition to us, and praise our own. And I mean, for years, for decades, we've all been sold the notion that we alone in the world get the true and accurate news, because we have, and by all appearances, we do have this huge, supposedly independent, media, this, massive media conglomerate with, hundreds of TV stations and radio stations and newspapers and magazines and podcasts and just unlimited options for where we get our news. And, so it certainly appears that we do, in fact, have, unlimited choices and access to truthful, unfiltered news stories. But, the reality is something very much different. But again, that's something that people don't really want to believe, don't really want to accept.
Now, along those lines, I think there's pretty much two camps. There's one camp that says, hey, we never went to the moon because it's impossible, the Van Allen belt, all that stuff. And then there's the other side that says, well, we have these secret space programs, and we've been to the moon way back in the 50s. Now, where do you fall in on that? We can't do it, it's impossible, or we have a secret space program?
I think it's we can't do it, and I think there's actually probably more than two camps, that there's one camp that says that we've never done it and it probably can't be done. There's another camp that says that the early missions were faked because we weren't ready yet and we wanted to make a show of beating Russia there, but that the later missions were successful. And then of course there's the camp that says that all of them were successful and the whole thing was legit.
Right.
And I pretty much fall into the there's absolutely no way it could have been done in the 1960s, and I don't believe. Well, NASA has acknowledged that it can't be done today, and whether it can ever be done, whether it's within the realm of what we as humans are even capable of, is highly questionable. But yeah, I mean, there's people that claim not only did we make it to the moon, but that we've made it to Mars, and that we have secret outposts on the moon and on Mars, and various other places. And then there's those that claim that we made it to the moon and we're confronted by hostile aliens, right, and warned away, and that's why we've never gone back, because we were told to stay away from the moon and mind our own business. So there's quite a few camps actually in regards to the various space programs.
It's almost like a jamboree. So many camps. Oh my God. Okay, so then lay out your case, man. Okay, we can't do it because it was impossible. So give us an idea. Give us some clues and hints and stuff.
Well, one of the most amazing things about it to me is that if you really read between the lines of various NASA press releases and releases from their various contractors, they've basically acknowledged numerous times that we that we haven't been to the moon. Not in so many words, but they'll talk about a return mission and what it will require. And, at various times they have said that, before we can, quote unquote, go back to the moon, we have to develop a new spacesuit material, because none of the materials that we currently have would withstand the environmental extremes on the moon, the temperature fluctuations and whatnot. And, yet supposedly we had a material that worked perfectly fine in 1969, so there's a huge, there's a huge problem there.
Yeah, you're right, because the temperature, the heat on the moon gets up to 250 degrees, which is boiling water. We don't have any suits on Earth that we can put on and jump in boiling water. We don't have them.
Well, they've acknowledged that. Yeah. They've said that, we need to develop some type of a radiation shield, not just for the spaceships, but for while they're on the moon and working on the moon. And they've, put out artist renditions of these elaborate, shields that would have to be constructed on the surface of the moon in order for our astronauts to stay there for any length of time and work there. And, we didn't have any of that in 1969, but now we need it, and they say, if we were to send back a rover now, it would have to be launched in a separate launch vehicle. It would require a completely separate launch, whereas in 1969, we had no problem stowing 3 astronauts in a dune buggy on the, the landing craft. And, they've talked about problems with re-entry that have to be worked out. They've talked about how the lunar dust would be a huge problem, and that they'd have to develop all new technology to maintain a completely dust-free environment inside the landing vehicle. They've talked about these special ports where the astronauts would actually pass sort of where the suits would dock to the outside of the craft with these special portals where they would sort of back into the suits, through the crafts, and then to get back into the craft, they'd have to sort of reverse that procedure, so that the spacesuits never came into the landing craft, because exactly. They say the lunar dust would just be a huge problem health-wise for the astronauts and for all the delicate electronics and mechanical parts on the, that it would wreak havoc. And yet you had these guys going out in dune buggies, kicking up whole rooster tails full of dust, in these videos, and then tromping back into the landing vehicle just literally covered with dust. And
then
no
problem. Then you go into zero gravity. That dust is going to be
everywhere.
Thick in the air, in your eyes. It's going to be in your eyes. There's no way you can.
That thing is going to be like a snow globe full.
Right.
And they've acknowledged that. Right. They've acknowledged that would happen now, but apparently in 1969 there was a different laws of physics involved or something, because we had no problem, and. So, there's a whole list of these specific problems that NASA has identified that are now problems, but that we had apparently had easy solutions for in 1969. And yet now, with almost 50 years of technological advancement under our belts, we're saying that we don't have the technology for it, So there's obviously a huge disconnect there.
Yeah, it is just so hysterical. Some of these, and like you said, even when I was a kid, the thing with the lunar rover thing, even I could see then when I was 10 years old, I could say, well, how'd they get that thing in and out? How'd they? Yeah.
I know, because the first missions they could barely get the 2 astronauts in there. These things were supposed to be, just designed for just a bare minimum of space, enough to hold 2 astronauts. It couldn't even hold the 3rd astronaut. He had to stay up in the command module while the other 2 went down and did their thing. And yet, after the first few flights, all of a sudden, with no changes whatsoever to the launch vehicle or the landing craft, all of a sudden they had dune buggies on board.
Wait, and those things cost $60 million a piece.
These full-size dune buggies that just miraculously made it to the moon, like stowed in the astronauts carry-on bags or something. It's just it was just remarkable. And I mean, my interpretation of that is that they needed to add a little more excitement. It was getting kind of boring. It wasn't holding the people's attention anymore. After the first one, the first couple were very exciting, and the entire country was glued to their TV screen because this was something that nobody had ever seen before. Obviously, this was just amazing. And watching on your little grainy black and white TVs as Neil Armstrong takes his very first step on the moon, 250,000 miles away, and I mean, everybody was just holding their breath, are they going to make it back? Are they, so it really captured the country's attention for the first few flights. And then it just kind of got routine because it just seemed too easy, there were no problems. Everything just seemed to run like clockwork. And so I believe that's why they started introducing other elements like the tragic Apollo 13 that, was supposedly bouncing around out in space for days, and the whole country was holding their breath, hoping and praying that our brave astronauts would make it back, and then they introduced the dune buggies.
Okay,
they had to spice it up.
I want to get to that when we get back.
The show was getting boring.
Because we got to take a commercial break, okay, my friend? We're here with Dave McGowan, the author of Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, Program to Kill, and Understanding the F Word. Okay, and I'm going to have links to all these books on my blog, The Opperman Report. We'll be right back after these messages.
If you're looking for essential oils, stop by and check out Essentially Tammy on Facebook. She is Young Living Essential Oils Independent Distributor. These 100% therapeutic grade oils help support the body's natural functions. You can click on her website posted on Essentially Tammy, that's T-A-M-I, to see the current deals and check out the benefits of oils such as frankincense, joy, valor, lemon, thieves, panaway, and many more. Email Jocko Tammy, that's Jocatami @yahoo.com, or call 352-239-8546. That's 352-239-8546. Hey, don't forget good old Amanda at Pacific West Bamboo. Pacific West Bamboo, 503-839-8126. You can reach her at demroots@oppermail.com. Pacific West Bamboo, your number one source for timber, construction, and craft-grade bamboo poles, plants, products, and more. They specialize in eco-friendly reclaimed wood products for the home and garden. They're located in Portland, Oregon, servicing the Northwest for over 10 years. They can be reached at 503-839-8126. That's 503-839-8126. Her Facebook page is Pacific West Bamboo. They can and do ship nationwide, and they're currently getting a new line of bamboo flooring, veneers, and laminates made from Guadawa bamboo, one of the world's strongest bamboos, grown and produced and manufactured in Central America using only economically and environmentally friendly practices and standards. Good old Mike Ray at infinityhomeplans.com. Check out Infinity Home Plans and Design Services, your resource for 3D and 2D draftsman services. They offer a multitude of products, including stock home plans, 2D digital drawings, 3D models, renderings, and more. That's infinityhomeplans.com. Hey, don't forget emailrevealer.com. That's my website, emailrevealer.com. And we offer all different kinds of services. Current place of employment locate. Let's say you're trying to locate where your ex-husband or your ex-wife is working so you can collect on child support. You contact us, we can locate their place of employment for you and help you collect on that child support. Let's say you think that your husband or your wife is cheating on you. Give us their email address and we can trace it back to online dating websites and dating services. So we have a multitude of services on emailrevealer.com. Hey, don't forget the New World Mexican Women. Okay, and I just Google New World Mexican Women. You can find their book where they first describe their love letters to their men and their sons and their uncles and their brothers who have traveled from South America to North America to work as migrant workers. But the women down in this town there in Guerrero, Mexico, they want their men to come back. So they've written these beautiful love letters and they've put them all in this beautiful coffee table book. First, the letters are written in Spanish, handwritten. You can see pictures of the people writing the books. And then it comes on after that, and it's typewritten in English. And then also, too, the second half of the book is teaching you how to make authentic Mexican jewelry from these New World Mexican women. You can find their book on Lulu.com. It's only $19, or you can download the digital edition for free. That's New World Mexican Women, and it's a two-part book where first part is the love letters, and the second part is the making the handmade jewelry, the authentic Mexican jewelry. But you can also contact them, too, as well, if you want to get a deal on wholesale jewelry from Mexico, from these women.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I am your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. The show is brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com. Get a free audio book. We got with us tonight Dave McGowan, author of Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, Understanding the F Word, and Program to Kill. 3 great books that I definitely recommend. There's a whole bunch of Facebook pages dedicated to his work and research. I would encourage everybody to just look that up. Look up Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon. Look up Dave McGowan, and there's a whole bunch of groups that Dave never visits, okay? But we all hang out in there and talk about Dave and talk about his work, and like-minded people, and we have some really good discussions in there. I'm in there almost every day. But Dave researches a lot of stuff, and one of these topics is the moon landing hoax. Now, Dave, what came first, the Gus Grissom murder or the Apollo 13 event?
Gus Grissom. He was one of the 3 that were killed in the the test, the massive fire in the capsule during the test.
Yeah, he's the one. The first one when his capsule came down, it sank in the water. They almost died then. Then he put up the hanger with the lemon on it and said this thing's a lemon. And then when he was he says, how are we going to get to the moon when we can't even talk to each other from one building to another? And then next thing I know, and his son and his wife, they both think he was killed.
Yeah, he was a bit of a troublemaker, a potential whistleblower who seemed to be very skeptical that this project was anywhere near being ready to make a successful flight to the moon. And him and 2 of his colleagues conveniently burned up in a very suspicious fire in the test capsule. That was I don't remember what the cause of it was. Was it too much oxygen in the cabin or some such thing? And they were conveniently silenced. I believe they were supposed to be they could very well have been the first crew, and their names would have been as well known to us now as like Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong had they played along, but instead they ended up dead and are long forgotten, other than to some of us conspiracy theorists. And then there was also the inspector, the guy who had written up a lengthy report that was apparently very critical of the program, and he turned up dead as well, and his report disappeared and was never to be seen again, from what I recall. So Yeah, there were a few suspicious deaths before the first supposedly successful Apollo mission ever got off the ground.
And there was a lot of people quit too, right after the first landing. They quit the program. Von Braun quit.
That I wasn't really aware of. I did not know that.
And you know what, Von Braun? Because I did a lot of research this week. This guy was a serious Nazi, man. You know, it wasn't just like, oh, yeah, member of the party. This was a serious Nazi. He was next to Goebbels, you know, and had slave laborers working on his V-2 rocket program. I mean, this guy had slaves.
Yeah, some of these people had a seriously questionable background. You know, the only one who was really well known by the public was Werner von Braun, who was you know, given a spit shine and put out there for public consumption, and you know, endorsed by Walt Disney and whatnot, and yeah, basically sold to the American people as something much different than what he actually was. But he wasn't even the worst of the lot. There was some really hardcore, hardcore serious Nazis, yeah, that ran like the underground slave labor camps that were, you know, pumping out munitions at the cost of their workers' lives. You know, I mean, literally they would work them slave labor that they would literally work till they dropped dead.
Yeah, and it's interesting how we were talking about Gus Grissom, how when they did that movie, you know, The Right Stuff, you know, they made him out to be kind of a clown, you know, and he was kind of a screw-up. You know, he screwed the pooch. That's what they kept saying in the movie, you know. And then for the Apollo 13 movie, who do they roll out? You know, Tom Hanks. You know, he's not a suspicious character, is he?
Yeah, good old Tom Hanks, good old beloved Tom Hanks, you know, he's just got that, yeah, you know, that squeaky clean, all-American, wholesome image, yeah, you know, he certainly wouldn't, yeah, he certainly couldn't be, you know, selling us anything other than the truth, right?
Ron Howard's involved in that.
Yeah, Ron Howard. Yeah. I mean, we grew up with Ron Howard, for crying out loud, yeah. You know, on the Andy Griffith Show. We've known Ronnie since he was a little kid.
That's
so
right.
You know what I mean? He's almost like family, right?
Paul.
So yeah, you know, it's
right, Paul. And Kevin Bacon, right? You know Kevin Bacon. He's a trustable guy, right?
Oh, yeah, well, you know, I've for years, people have told me that I resemble Kevin. I get that a lot. Not as much lately. I guess we've grown apart as we've gotten older, but I used to get it a lot. People say, hey, you know, you look a lot like Kevin Bacon. Okay, if you say so. Yeah, Kevin Bacon is apparently my doppelganger. We're about the same age, like same height, weight, build. And yeah, but not as much so anymore. But yeah, you know, yet again another great all-American guy, and you know, it's you know, these people are as American as apple pie. So you know, why question what they're selling us, right?
Yeah, even when it's so completely ludicrous, you know. Hey, what do you think of the Stanley Kubrick theory?
I don't know what to make of that. It's certainly credible, you know. I know there's a lot of people that promote it, and you know, it's not at all beyond the realm of possibility. And you know, of course, he was you know, working with those same kind of special effects in those days with the, you know, 2001: Space Odyssey, you know, very groundbreaking film at the time, and you know, it's not at all beyond, you know, there's a picture of him like in England walking with some, you know, NASA people, and you know, he apparently was consulted and whatnot, and you know, it's not at all beyond the realm of possibility. I haven't seen any, you know, hard and fast evidence where I would say absolutely he was, you know, directly involved, but it certainly can't be ruled out.
And he obviously had some concerns later on in life because he moved to a home that had a moat around it.
Yeah, you know, and I mean his movies have been analyzed to pieces, you know, for symbolism, especially The Shining, and you know, and then there's a whole controversy over the Eyes Wide Shut, and was he making a movie that was going to spill the beans, and then he got offed, and it ended up being re-edited by, who was it, Spielberg or something? I don't even remember who re-edited it. So the version, that we got theatrically was not, not necessarily the version that Kubrick had envisioned, and so there's been endless theorizing about that one, and and then there's the fact that NASA gave him like some special lens to use for what was the Barry Lyndon film or something, some very, very expensive rare lens that he got on loan, and there's been various people who've theorized that was in part a payback for services rendered to NASA. So there's definitely tangential evidence, and it's quite possible.
And it seems like he's the one, too, that planted the notion in our mind that when astronauts are walking around in space, that they walk around in slow motion.
Yeah, well, yeah, to some degree.
Because stop and think. Why would they be in slow motion in space? Wouldn't they be faster?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, with zero grade, you should, yeah.
You're zipping around.
Jump higher, run faster, yeah, I would think, but hey.
There's no logical explanation why they walk in slow motion in space. It's not underwater.
Yeah, I know. Where's the resistance coming from? There's no atmosphere. There's very little gravity. So what is the resistance that's slowing their movements? What makes sense. It doesn't make sense. But,
until you saw 2001.
I'm not a physicist or whatever. So maybe there's some logical scientific explanation for it, but not that I've seen or heard. It just seems to be just accepted that that's the way it should be.
I know. Hey, are you familiar with the whole story about how they beamed the signals to Australia first and then to the United States?
Yeah.
Do you know about the Coke bottle?
Which is pretty remarkable. Pretty remarkable technology for the 60s, really. We could beam a live TV signal 250,000 miles back home, without a glitch. That's, I can't even, I can't even hold a cell phone call nowadays to somebody around the block. But, in those days they had much better technology, apparently. So, but yeah, it was the Coke bottle. It rings a bell. Yeah, wasn't there like some of the people who saw the original footage said that a Coke bottle rolled across?
Yeah, that they kicked the Coke bottle
in the footage or something.
Yeah, I was watching it today, and there seems to be quite a few people that saw it. So who knows, right? Who knows, man?
There's no actual footage of it, right? It's
No.
just the people who say that before it was, whatever they did to it, before they transferred the signal or whatever, that in the original footage there was a Coke bottle.
Yeah.
Is that basically? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. So it's hard to say. Yeah, I don't. Without personally interviewing the witnesses and seeing just what kind of people, if they're still even alive. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's possible that they did, and I don't know. Maybe Coke was already established on the moon.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
They've got some marketing savvy. They're all over the world. So why not conquer the moon, right?
Yeah, I know. Oh, hey, what about you must have seen the movie Capricorn 1, right?
With OJ?
Yeah.
Where that's where it's been a long time. That's where they like fake a mission to Mars. Is that what it is?
It was supposed to be the moon, but they changed it to Mars.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for the movie they changed it to Mars, and but that's the same. It's the same story,
Yeah, isn't it? There's also a scene in like one of the James Bond films. Is that a sequence where they chase the guy through a set where they're filming a fake moonwalk or something like that? Which,
yes, in Diamonds Are Forever. Okay.
Is that where it is?
Yeah.
That's another one that people have pointed out as being, a tip of the hat to the, basically the powers that be saying, yeah, we faked it, so what? What are you going to do about it?
Wait a second. You're right, and that's funny, too, because when James Bond, Sean Connery is, when he's making his escape through this lunar set, the astronauts are trying to stop him, but they're going in slow motion while he's going at normal speed.
That one I've never actually seen. I'm not a huge James Bond fan, but I'd probably watch it sometime just for that scene. Is it at the beginning of the movie?
I don't know. I just caught it on YouTube today when I was watching all the videos about but it is hysterical with the because it's an Area 51. Obviously, they talk about like a base in the middle of Nevada, and the astronauts were here in Las Vegas. They were here. They were at UNLV. They were here for a long time, so there's definitely possibilities that this was filmed in Nevada at Area 51.
Yeah, people ask me all the time, where do you think it was actually filmed at? I'm like, who knows? I mean, it's could be any nondescript remote location. I mean, there's plenty to choose from. Who knows? But that's certainly one possibility that's been mentioned frequently is that it was filmed on or around Area 51, which is obviously a very tightly controlled base where not likely that any prying eyes would see what was going on. So definitely a possibility.
Yeah, especially at the time because no one knew about Area 51 back in those days, and it would be inconceivable to even drive out there or travel out in that direction. There would be just no reason to. Yeah.
So, it's quite possible.
So now, one thing, though, that the skeptics to this topic they always bring up is that laser thing. That they said, well, no, we know it's there because you can go to Texas, and they do it all the time. They shoot this laser against this reflector they left on the moon, and it comes back. And even these astronauts bring it up all the time, too. So what do you think about that?
Well, there's several possibilities. There were reports out even before the Apollo landings that they were doing these same types of things with no devices on the moon. That the surface of the moon itself was reflective enough that they could do what they're doing, which is basically like get a precise measurement, I believe it is, from here to the moon based on how much time the signal takes to bounce back or whatever it is. So, one possibility is that there never have been any reflectors there and they're just bouncing off of, various natural features of the surface of the moon itself. Another possibility is that they were placed there remotely by unmanned craft. Russia claimed to have placed several of them robotically back in that era. So, it's possible that because I've never said that unmanned craft can't get to the moon. I just don't think that it's within that it's humanly possible to get there, but certainly probably possible to get spacecraft there. So they could have been placed robotically. So that's another possibility. I question whether that we even had the technology to do that back in those days. I mean, these are tiny little targets, like the size of like a computer monitor or something,
right.
That were placed 250,000 miles away. I don't know if people really understand how, what kind of distance that is that we're talking between here and the moon. And if you're a photographer, if you've ever used a really long telephoto lens, or if you're a hunter that's used a scope, that even from relatively short distances, even a tiny little bit of motion will completely throw off, what you're viewing. It doesn't take much at all, and the farther away it is, of course, the more that's amplified. And I really find it very hard to believe that in the 1960s we had lasers or whatever that were accurate enough and stationary enough that could be, kept still enough, basically, to focus on a target that tiny, that far away. That just seems I don't know. It just seems very, very hard for me to believe. So I'm inclined to believe that they're just basically bouncing it off of the surface of the moon itself, because I don't know that we have that. I mean, that would require a degree of accuracy that's just pretty astonishing, really.
Yeah, because back then we didn't even have fax machines, we didn't have email, we didn't have cordless drills. People, the kids today don't understand that. If I try to tell my kid that, she doesn't understand.
A pocket calculator that just like added, subtracted, multiplied, and divided was, a valuable commodity. It just, I mean, people, the technology. We had big, heavy rotary telephones.
Yeah, my dad was an accountant. He had an adding machine. That was this big. It was on a stand. This big giant thing. The size of I can't even think what, like a vacuum cleaner. We had TVs with 13 channels and no remote control. Right. There was no remote control back in those days.
And no VCRs, let alone DVRs. I mean, the technology back then, it was. It was like the Dark Ages compared to now, and you see how quickly this technology accelerates. Once something's been developed. I mean, we went from cell phones to these incredibly, these big clunky original, mobile car phones to these, smartphones now that just are just amazing. I mean, just technological marvels, right? That not only serve as a phone, but as anything else you want it to be. An adding machine, a still camera, a video camera, a TV, a radio. I mean, just infinite. It serves infinite functions now, and I mean, it hasn't taken that long to travel that arc. So I mean, in the realm of space travel, you look at, Apollo and 45 years have passed, and I mean, we should have technology that should make it just a piece of cake to get to the moon and back.
Yeah, but
nowadays, I mean, it should be something that consumer that just rank and file people could do. I mean, they say that They've said that over the years, they were saying way back in like the 80s that the onboard computers on the Apollo flights had less computing power than a Sony Walkman,
Right.
And a Sony Walkman has like a millionth, the computing power of the phone that I'm holding in my hand right now, So I'm holding more technology in my hand by far than what supposedly sent our astronauts successfly all the way to the moon and back multiple times. I mean, it just doesn't add up. It really the whole thing just doesn't really seem to add up.
Yeah, even the space shuttle with all its boosters and all that stuff. I got feedback. Who am I getting it from? You, Dave? Okay.
I don't know, you were cutting out a little bit.
Okay, I was getting some feedback. Okay, even the space shuttle with all its boosters and all its rockets and stuff like that has never gotten higher than 400 miles.
Yeah, that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand, right? Is what a huge leap it is from what we do now to what we supposedly did in the 60s. People look and say, well, what's the big deal? We put people into orbit. We can put we have a fully functional space station. We have the Hubble telescope. We have, the space shuttle. Well, we did have the space shuttle programs, and what's the big deal? What's the big difference between that and going to the moon? Well, it's a huge difference because none of those things have ever gone more than like 300 or 400 miles from the surface of the Earth. None of them. Not the Hubble telescope, not the space station, none of the space shuttles. They've never left low Earth orbit.
And they have a huge failure rate, too, as well.
And they have a huge failure rate just doing that, right. Exactly. Okay, and yet the Apollo flight supposedly went all the way to the moon and back 250,000 miles, you know?
And a little tin can.
So yeah, on one tank of gas. So, you know, to say, well, you know, what's the big deal if we can launch space shuttles and this and blah, 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 why couldn't we send them into the moon? It's like saying, you know, if I can walk around the block, why can't I walk around the world?
Right.
I mean, it's literally I mean, it's exponentially more difficult than anything that we've done since. By far. I mean, just by leaps and bounds. Nothing we have done comes anywhere close, technologically speaking, to what we accomplished in 1969.
Amazing. Okay, we have a hard break coming up now. We have a nice 5-minute commercial. We'll be right back with more with Dave McGowan, author of Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, Understanding the F Word, and Program to Kill. But we'll be right back after this break.
If you're looking for essential oils, stop by and check out Essentially Tammy on Facebook. She is Young Living Essential Oils Independent Distributor. These 100% therapeutic grade oils help support the body's natural functions. You can click on her website posted on Essentially Tammy, that's T-A-M-I, to see the current deals and check out the benefits of oils such as frankincense, joy, valor, lemon, thieves, panaway, and many more. Email Jocotami, that's Jocatami @yahoo.com, or call 352-239-8546. That's 352-239-8546. Hey, don't forget good old Amanda at Pacific West Bamboo. Pacific West Bamboo, 503-839-8126. You can reach her at demroots@oppermail.com. Pacific West Bamboo, your number one source for timber, construction, and craft-grade bamboo poles, plants, products, and more. They specialize in eco-friendly reclaimed wood products for the home and garden. They're located in Portland, Oregon, servicing the Northwest for over 10 years. They can be reached at 503-839-8126. That's 503-839-8126. Her Facebook page is Pacific West Bamboo. They can and do ship nationwide, and they're currently getting a new line of bamboo flooring, veneers, and laminates made from Guadawa bamboo, one of the world's strongest bamboos, grown and produced and manufactured in Central America using only economically and environmentally friendly practices and standards. Good old Mike Ray at infinityhomeplans.com. Check out Infinity Home Plans and Design Services, your resource for 3D and 2D draftsman services. They offer a multitude of products, including stock home plans, 2D digital drawings, 3D models, renderings, and more. That's infinityhomeplans.com. Hey, don't forget emailrevealer.com. That's my website, emailrevealer.com. And we offer all different kinds of services. Current place of employment locate. Let's say you're trying to locate where your ex-husband or your ex-wife is working so you can collect on child support. You contact us, we can locate their place of employment for you and help you collect on that child support. Let's say you think that your husband or your wife is cheating on you. Give us their email address and we can trace it back to online dating websites and dating services. So we have a multitude of services on emailrevealer.com. Hey, don't forget the New World Mexican Women. Okay, and I just Google New World Mexican Women. You can find their book where they first describe their love letters to their men and their sons and their uncles and their brothers who have traveled from South America to North America to work as migrant workers. But the women down in this town there in Guerrero, Mexico, they want their men to come back. So they've written these beautiful love letters and they've put them all in this beautiful coffee table book. First, the letters are written in Spanish, handwritten. You can see pictures of the people writing the books. And then it comes on after that, and it's typewritten in English. And then also, too, the second half of the book is teaching you how to make authentic Mexican jewelry. from these New World Mexican women. You can find their book on Lulu.com. It's only $19, or you can download the digital edition for free. That's New World Mexican Women, and it's a two-part book where first part is the love letters, and the second part is the making the handmade jewelry, the authentic Mexican jewelry. But you can also contact them too as well if you want to get a deal on wholesale jewelry from Mexico from these women.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I am your host, Private Investigator, and Opperman. The show is brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/Opperman Report. Get a free audio book and help support the show. And don't forget, we really need sponsors. We really need donations to keep the show running. You can go to OppermanReport.com. We're listener-sponsored. We survive on your support. You can click on the donate button over there, or you can just send a PayPal donation to OppermanReport@gmail.com. Also, like right now, we're like number 5 on TalkStream Live. We're ahead of Sean Hannity. We're beating Hannity. We're right behind Glenn Beck. We're right behind Michael Savage. So if you want to place an ad on here, a lot of people will hear your ad. Plus, it goes on YouTube and Spreaker and iHeartRadio forever. You know, but by the end of this year, we'll have over 1 million hits views on YouTube. So if you want to get your ad on there, you can get in on the ground floor. And a year from now, 1 million people will hear your, supposedly, however that works. But we're here with Dave McGowan, author of Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, Understanding the F Word, which is fascism, and Program to Kill. Dave, what do you think about these trips, these unmanned trips we're taking to Mars, with this Mars rover and stuff like that? Do you buy that?
It's pretty questionable, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know. And the asteroid one was the one where we supposedly landed some probe on some remote asteroid or some type thing.
No, well, I think we actually sent Clint Eastwood up there and a couple of those guys that landed on the asteroid, didn't we?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, one question that comes to mind is why? Why put so much effort and money and research into such a curious project of landing on this, random interplanetary body out there? And from what I remember, it took like years for the thing to get there, and just seems kind of unlikely that the thing would actually, perform properly for the amount of time that it would take to even get there before they even got to the landing and testing and whatnot. And I mean, wouldn't the technology be like already obsolete by the time
That's true. Yeah.
And I don't know. It just seems very questionable to me that. We can't build anything here, that stays here on Earth that operates properly for that amount of time. So what are the odds that we can launch it into space, into this largely unknown environment with no means of, doing any maintenance or repairs, and expect that years later the thing's still going to be performing properly? It's very questionable in my mind anyway.
Yeah, and they had that Mars rover that was up there, then it stopped working, and then suddenly, and it almost looked like it had been wiped with a Kleenex, like with a Windex. Yeah, what is going on with this? NASA's insane. And they lose stuff. They lose records, they lose photographs, whole archives of stuff.
Well, that's another amazing thing, I mean, for my entire life, well, not my entire life, because I was, 9, I think, when the first one supposedly successfully landed. But ever since then, it's been beaten into my head and into everybody else's that this was the single greatest technological achievement of the 20th century. Just this huge scientific landmark event, landing men on the moon. Nothing like that had ever been done before or since, and it was just this huge. The single greatest technological achievement of the 20th century. And you would think that being the case, that every artifact connected to that would be very carefully preserved and cataloged and stored somewhere in a temperature-controlled vault or in the Smithsonian or whatever, under heavy guard and lock and key, and preserved for posterity, right? But yet what we find instead is that NASA seems to have lost like everything. If you go looking for the plans for the launch vehicles, we don't have those. The original tapes, seem to have lost those. The telemetry tapes, those seem to have gone missing. The majority of the moon rocks, it's just on and on down the list. It's which is very convenient, because if those technical specifications and drawings and original, all that original, paperwork or whatnot was in existence, you would think that a, modern, 21st century scientist could look at those and determine whether these various components of the mission actually had the capability of doing what they were supposed to do, or whether they were just, stage props, basically. Yeah. But we can't do that because, none of that information is available for review very conveniently.
Yeah, it turned out some of those rocks turned out to be fake, too. They were on display in other countries. They weren't even real.
Yeah, a little embarrassing for NASA when their moon rocks turn out to be pieces of petrified wood that
but they don't even blush. They don't blush,
proudly
man.
Displayed for decades.
Yeah.
As moon rocks.
There's not even an apology. There's no press conference. There's no investigation. There's nothing. It's funny because we came up with the expression from this. If you can land a man on the moon, we can put a man on the moon, but you can't do this, right? But you know what? Supposedly, we could land a man on the moon, but we couldn't land those same guys back on Earth. They had to come down in a parachute and land in the middle of the ocean. They had to splash land in the middle of nowhere. And I can remember being a kid. I was like 6 years old, watching this and saying to my mom, but Mom, one time too, they couldn't even find it. It was like 5 hours they were looking for this thing. And I said, but I don't understand. Why can't they find it? It went all the way to the moon. It met up with the LEM, the rendezvous back, in the middle of space. And she says, oh, you don't understand. The ocean's really big. I said, it's no space. The moon is big. It's insane.
And all of them, of course, landed safely in the ocean. We never had one miss and, crash land into the, Arizona desert or anything like that. They all landed perfectly into the ocean, safely into the ocean, of course. The safety record is just phenomenal, compared to what we have today. But there were all kinds of amazing, technological achievements. We created this multi-stage rocket that could, shed parts as it went along, and there were a lot of huge supposed, major milestones, major firsts that had never been done before, performing a docking maneuver in lunar orbit, and landing on the surface of the moon, taking back off from the surface of the moon, somehow rendezvousing with the command module and performing this docking maneuver in lunar orbit, nothing remotely like that had ever been done before or since. Right. It's never been done since. But yet we couldn't, when we got all the way back from doing all these amazing things, we just, dumped the guys into the ocean with a parachute, I never thought about that, actually, but that is kind of funny.
Because I'll never forget, we couldn't find them. There was one time and I said, how could we not find them? Like, why is it taking so long? Oh, you know what else, man, blew me away, too? Have you ever seen the videos of when the Russian cosmonauts come off out of their spacecraft? They land their thing, right? And they put them on beach chairs right there out in the open. And they sit them down on these beach chairs. They can't even stand up. They're like, they're like limp. And then they start fanning them like with a notebook to give them air, So like, how could our guys be landing after going all the way to the moon and back? And they come strutting out of that, out of that little pond, like nothing happened.
And they look like movie stars, you know? I mean, in some of the earlier, tests where, people had spent like a few days in orbit or whatever. And, these are conditions where, hygiene is not something that's real easy to tend to, It's, I mean, I would think just relieving yourself would be, a difficult proposition, let alone, brushing your teeth or combing your hair or shaving or you can't shower or bathe. And I mean, this is like spending a week on Survivor or something, and yet they come back and they're like television ready. They're rested, they're refreshed, they're fresh scrubbed, they're well groomed, and these don't look like people that just crawled out of a cramped space capsule that they spent, an extended amount of time in. It's just, it doesn't quite fit.
Just think wearing that suit for 3 days and that backpack and that helmet, and the gloves. Just doing that, you would need twice the amount of food and water that you'd have here on Earth walking around. How could we pack all that much? Well, they had Tang. I'll give them that. They had the Tang. Of course, that got them a little further along. But, how could you pack all that food and water for 3 days for 3 men under those kind of conditions with the batteries and the...
I know, just the power supply to keep everything running. Just the sheer number and weight of batteries that would be required to keep all of these, not only the spaceship but all of the life-sustaining functions. Temperature control and oxygen control and food. Yeah, and I mean just the quantities of food and water and. Just all kinds of things that they would have, spare parts and, tools and stuff. Because if something goes wrong on the spaceship, you can't pull out the phone book and call the local repairman to come and fix it, So you got to have everything conceivable for every possible emergency situation, for every possible contingency, as well as just the basic life-sustaining functions, the basic things that humans need to survive in that environment is a lot to put on the tiny little capsule that barely holds 2 men and also happen to have room for a full-size dune buggy.
They cost $60 million. And at a time when cars didn't have seatbelts. We didn't have seatbelts back in those days, We didn't have car seats. You put your baby on your lap when you rode in the car, in the front seat. It's mind-boggling.
They claim that they designed this thing to be so lightweight and compact that it basically like folded up into the size of a piece of luggage. And then when they got there, just sort of wave your magic wand and it unfolds into a full-size dune buggy. But I mean, as I've commented in my post, if we had that technology in the 60s, then why aren't we all carrying our cars into the office today? We should be able to just carry our cars around in a briefcase and pop them out anytime we want, right? I mean, if they had that amazing technology, almost 50 years ago, then somebody should have picked that up and ran with it, obviously.
Well, it's interesting. In my research, I saw today that the batteries that they had on the dune buggy wouldn't even operate in those temperatures, and neither would the battery that they had in the cameras. They had regular D-cell batteries in the cameras. There's regular batteries off the shelf, so there's no way they're going to operate in 100 degrees below zero.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. About the camera and the film. I mean, how would the film survive the radiation levels and the temperature extremes to create this perfect photograph, this perfect photographic record that we had? Because not only were all our astronauts just awesomely brave and heroic, but they were also all just damn good professional photographers. You got to give it to these guys. I mean, they were sent there under the most unforgiving circumstances imaginable, where you're struggling just to stay alive, to get food and water and whatnot, and you're in this bulky spacesuit with a helmet on and a visor. Your vision is restricted. You're wearing these heavy padded gloves. And somehow or other, you have to operate a fully manual camera, which is another thing people don't understand. We keep going back to the technology, the dark ages of technology in the 60s, and I'm sure a lot of people who are used to just pulling out their camera and tapping on the screen and taking perfect pictures don't understand that that wasn't possible in the 1960s. Everything had to be adjusted manually. The exposure, the aperture, the shutter speed, it had to be manually focused, and which was not easy to do, even to the degree that these guys did it, where virtually every frame is perfectly framed, perfectly exposed, perfectly focused. It's just extraordinary to think that they could have gotten that quality of photographs working under those conditions when they weren't even professional photographers. They were astronauts who were just doing that as a side thing, supposedly, and yet just phenomenally talented photographers. You got to hand it to them.
and professional lighting too. There was all kinds of really artistic lighting done.
Yeah. And the cameras, of course, functioned perfectly under those extreme, environmental conditions. And the film also performed marvelously well. So, it's.
Well, they make the radiation film badge dosimeters that you wear when you work around X-ray machines and stuff like that. They make that out of film because film is so sensitive to radiation that you can measure it on this film. So that there's no way going through the Van Allen belt and then being on with no atmosphere on the moon, all this kind of craziness, that this film would not be damaged along the way. These pictures would not have made it to the cover of Time magazine under any circumstances. It's just
exactly. I mean, I'm an avid but very amateur photographer who eventually sold out and switched over to digital. But for years, I shot everything on film. And, when I would travel, I would take just, like 20 rolls of film with me, because you didn't have a little memory card. You could just take unlimited pictures of everything you see. So, but I can remember every time I would go through an airport security thing, I would hand I would take my film out of my bag and hand it to the attendant to hand check, because I did not want it going through the X-ray machines because it could damage your film. It could ruin your exposures, especially with higher speed film. And it's very, very, very sensitive. Film stock, 35 millimeter film stock is very, very sensitive to radiation, and yet. Performed fantastically.
Yeah, so many people.
As did all the other technology. I mean, everything performed flawlessly. I mean, everything. I don't remember, other than Apollo 13, and even then, everyone made it back alive. It was a happy ending. It just, it was extraordinary how good our technology performed, which again raises the question of, so why, when we talk about going back to, quote unquote, going back to the moon, are they constantly talking about reinventing the wheel when this stuff had a far greater safety record and much better, performance record than what we produce now? We can't build a space shuttle now that doesn't, doesn't kill a bunch of people every now and then, but back then we could. So why reinvent the wheel when what we already had was actually better?
What do you make of all these, like the way they name these missions? Like Apollo and like these. You know what I'm talking about?
To some degree, yeah. I mean, I don't know where the Apollo name specifically came from.
But they all seem to be named like that, the Greek gods and all kinds of, Gemini,
Gemini, and what was the other one?
Copernicus. You know what I mean? It's like, what's going on? Like, Richard Hogan has all those theories about what do you think of Richard Hogan and all those theories?
I'm not that familiar. Is he the guy that claims that there's alien structures?
Yeah, he says
and that they can be discerned in some of the pictures, like the outlines of like alien bases or towers or some glass domes and whatnot.
Remains of glass structures on the moon. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very skeptical of that. I don't know. Like as we said from the beginning, that's one of the prevailing theories out there is that we did make it and that we encountered hostile aliens who warned us away, and that's why we've never gone back. But yeah, to me that seems pretty convenient rationalizing of why we've never repeated that amazing feat, some 50 years later. So I'm not inclined to buy into that, but what do you think?
Well, because it establishes the theory that we went there.
Yeah, I mean, the base. Yeah, at the root of the theory is acknowledgement that we did go there. So I mean, in essence, it ends up supporting the government story. I mean, it throws in the alien angle, but I think the government is actively encouraged belief in alien life and UFOs for a very long time anyway. So.
But it also seems to me that if you can see, because his photograph, he does some kind of a contrast analyzation with his photographs. If you can see structures and that kind of stuff, it would seem it would be like scaffolding and parts of the lighting and stuff that would reflect.
Yeah, lighting tower, camouflage light towers and stuff like that. Yeah,
because if you've ever been on a TV set, they got scaffold, they got stuff all over
fake
the place.
Backdrops. I mean, people say, "Where was this filmed?" Well, you may never be able to identify where it was filmed because the backdrops may have been just a sheet, a screen of a very primitive. I mean, nowadays they would do it with like green screen or whatever it is technology, but back in those days it was as simple as hanging up a fake backdrop in the scene. So there may be no place in the world that matches the geological features that you can see in the videos because it may have all just been fake backgrounds. And what he's identifying, could be structures, holding lighting or holding the backgrounds and. Yeah, that sort of thing. Artifacts of the production, so to speak.
It seems like a lot of the still photography is miniatures as well. Because some of it, the scale, it's miniature because the scale to the background. They use the same mountains in the background over and over, but everything in the foreground just moves around. And guys who are real serious photographers have done a lot of real serious research on this. We're getting down to the last half hour. You know what? If you want to take some phone calls, you can call in at 702-605-4894, or you can Skype me at ed.opperman on Skype if you have questions for Dave McGowan. I know everybody complains that they always want to ask Dave questions. So tonight you have that opportunity. Let me see my notes here. It's so funny, this whole thing is just such a crazy story. Hey. Yeah, what about the whole thing about no stars in the background?
Yeah, that's another huge anomaly in the photographs is, the presence of no stars whatsoever. And despite the fact that, we've been kind of led to believe that, given the lack of atmosphere and the no light pollution,
right,
that they should have been presented with the most dazzling, light show imaginable, well beyond anything we can get here on Earth. There are places here like up on the top of like Mount Haleakala or something in Maui where you can just get dazzling starscapes because you're up high, the atmosphere is thin, there's no light pollution, but nothing compared to what they would have experienced on the moon. And it should have just been an absolutely dazzling show, and yet
they forgot to bring a telescope. They never brought a telescope out. They brought the Tang. They had the Tang with them. They had the go-kart. They had their, all that fun stuff. By the way, too, there's videos too, man, of these astronauts lifting up their gold screens off their face.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, what the hell is that?
That's true. Yeah, no, that's another thing. Yeah, they shouldn't have. They definitely should not have been able to do that. But it's I mean, the more you look at it, the more anomalies you can find, and at some point, it just almost becomes like laughable, except for the fact that so many people still, cling to it.
And where'd all that money go? You know what I mean? It was a ton of those go-karts, man, were $60 million a piece. Me and my friends, I remember when I was a kid, I was 15 years old, we chipped in, we bought a go-kart, it was $99. And it worked great, man. It was even smaller and easier to get up on that in the shuttle.
But it wasn't a moon buggy.
No, it wasn't. No. But we did drink Tang on it. We put a little vodka in our Tang. I'm sure we did. Listen, we got a break coming up. We're going to have a nice long 5-minute break. You can go get a smoke, whatever, go to the bathroom. We're joined by Mike Gray from Parlay. He's a radio show host from Parlay on cjmars.com. Going to be coming up on Thursday nights. So we'll be right back after this message with more of Dave McGowan, the moon landing, Boston bombing, all different kind of topics. And he's the author of Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, Understanding the F-Word, Fascism, we got to understand, and also to Program to Kill. So we'll be right back after these messages.
We clear?
No, because if they can hear us. I don't know if I'm playing this.
If you're looking for essential oils, stop by and check out Essentially Tammy on Facebook. She is Young Living Essential Oils Independent Distributor. These 100% therapeutic grade oils help support the body's natural functions. You can click on her website posted on Essentially Tammy, that's T-A-M-I, to see the current deals and check out the benefits of oils such as frankincense, joy, valor, lemon, thieves, panaway, and many more. Email Jocko Tammy, that's Jocatami @yahoo.com, or call 352-239-8546. That's 352-239-8546. Hey, don't forget good old Amanda at Pacific West Bamboo. Pacific West Bamboo, 503-839-8126. You can reach her at demroots@oppermail.com. Pacific West Bamboo, your number one source for timber, construction, and craft-grade bamboo poles, plants, products, and more. They specialize in eco-friendly reclaimed wood products for the home and garden. They're located in Portland, Oregon, servicing the Northwest for over 10 years. They can be reached at 503-839-8126. That's 503-839-8126. Her Facebook page is Pacific West Bamboo. They can and do ship nationwide, and they're currently getting a new line of bamboo flooring, veneers, and laminates made from Guadawa bamboo, one of the world's strongest bamboos, grown and produced and manufactured in Central America using only economically and environmentally friendly practices and standards. Good old Mike Gray at infinityhomeplans.com. Check out Infinity Home Plans and Design Services, your resource for 3D and 2D draftsman services. They offer a multitude of products, including stock home plans, 2D digital drawings, 3D models, renderings, and more. That's infinityhomeplans.com. Hey, don't forget emailrevealer.com. That's my website, emailrevealer.com. And we offer all different kinds of services. Current place of employment locate. Let's say you're trying to locate where your ex-husband or your ex-wife is working so you can collect on child support. You contact us, we can locate their place of employment for you and help you collect on that child support. Let's say you think that your husband or your wife is cheating on you. Give us their email address and we can trace it back to online dating websites and dating services. So we have a multitude of services on emailrevealer.com. Hey, okay, don't forget the New World Mexican Women. Okay, and I just Google New World Mexican Women. You can find their book where they first describe their love letters to their men and their sons and their uncles and their brothers who have traveled from South America to North America to work as migrant workers. But the women down in this town there in Guerrero, Mexico, they want their men to come back. So they've written these beautiful love letters, and they've put them all in this beautiful coffee table book. First, the letters are written in Spanish, handwritten. You can see pictures of the people writing the books. And then it comes on after that, and it's typewritten in English. And then also, too, the second half of the book is teaching you how to make authentic Mexican jewelry from these New World Mexican women. You can find their book on Lulu.com. It's only $19, or you can download the digital edition for free. That's New World Mexican Women, and it's a two-part book where first part is the love letters, and the second part is the making the handmade jewelry, the authentic Mexican jewelry. But you can also contact them, too, as well, if you want to get a deal on wholesale jewelry from Mexico, from these women.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I am your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. Show's brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com. Opperman Report, get yourself a free audiobook. Sign up for free, get a free audiobook. Now, we're joined by Mike Gray, who is the host of Parlay, the hit news show. Going to be debuting on Thursday on the 12th on CJ Morris Radio. His first guest is Mike, I believe it is Sean Dave Martin?
Yes.
Very good. Okay, see, Mike, I'm on top of you. Mike is also the owner of InfinityHomeplans.com, one of our sponsors. And he's a frequent caller, and we appreciate his calls. And I'm going to start recording our calls off the air, Mike, because I think those are a lot more fun than when we're on the air.
Sure.
What kind of question you got for Dave McGowan?
Oh, hi, Dave. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there.
Hey, just so you know, the moon rover was hung upright on the LEM, and when they landed, it was on a ramp, and then they lowered the ramp at a 45 and rolled it off.
Are you sure, Mike?
Yes. It was not. It was not in the vehicle. It was put on a ramp that was upright against the LEM. It's in the pictures, or in the what do you call the technical manuals, the technical specs.
Wouldn't that adversely affect the flight characteristics of the?
Hey, absolutely.
You would think, you got some.
But they had all kinds of stuff hanging off that thing. They had ladders and flags.
Right. And what I want to know is when there was no when they were going to leave, they had to completely get in their suits and open the door, which would completely, decompress the environment, right? And then they would go outside, and then they'd have to get in with their suits, with the moon dust, close the door, and then take time to refill the cabin with air, and then take their suits off.
You would think, and to adjust the temperature inside, because
right.
Depending on whether it was in the shade or in the sun, temperature is either going to be very, very hot.
Well, it was always in the
out.
sun. It was always in the sun.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long does it take when you get into your car, a car in 2015, that has, a much better computer than the computer on the LEM, okay? And you get into your car now on a hot day in Nevada, okay? It's 120 degrees outside. You get in your car. How long does it take that car to cool off?
That's what I'm saying. What kind of AC system do they have? They don't go into that. Not even for the suit. And you know that no one company made the suit. Like one company made the glove, another company made the helmet, another company made the boots and the booties.
Well, Dave's my age. What kind of AC systems did we have in 1963, 1964, 1965?
Not very good ones, I wouldn't think, to cool a capsule that's basically made of aluminum foil, so it doesn't have a huge amount of, insulation value. You wouldn't think sitting there baking in the 2,500 degree or whatever, or what is it? I can't even remember
250 boiling. There's boiling water around your home. Let's imagine this, okay? Because I lived in the Bronx, and when this thing came down, okay, in 1969, I was living in the Bronx. And the whole house, the whole apartment we lived in, we had one little window AC unit, okay, to cool off one room, okay? Now imagine if we had this boiling water all around that room, what it would take to turn on this a big giant, you couldn't even lift this thing. But somehow these guys got them on their backpacks to cool them off. How is this possible?
Well,
yeah, I mean,
in the movie, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, and plus, remember Tom Hanks in the movie Apollo 13 says that the skin of the module is thinner than a Pepsi can.
Yeah, they said that I mean, there are reports, published reports of that workers had to be very careful when they were working on the interiors of these, because if they dropped a tool, it could literally just pierce its way right through the skin of this capsule. So, I mean, how well insulated can that thing be sitting in the blazing sun at, some ungodly temperature? And I mean, how many batteries would be required just to keep the AC system running constantly for the entire time that they were there,
And recharging their backpacks. It's just ridiculous.
Well, have you got... Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to... have you guys ever read Jay Weidner's or Jay Weidner's work on that? On Kubrick faking the moon landing?
I think I've read some of it. I haven't, not in depth. I know he's kind of like the go-to guy on that.
Yeah, his theory is that during the making of 2001: A Space Odyssey from 1964 to 1968, while they were that movie took 4 years to make, and while he's saying that while they were making that movie, there's moon shots in that movie and moon scenes in that movie, that while he was making that movie, he was simultaneously in those studios faking all the moon landings. The studio shots for the moon landings.
Again, I mean, it all makes sense, the timeline and the technology that he was working with, and various other events in his life and symbolism in the movies and whatnot. It's certainly, whether we can ever say with certainty, is another question entirely. But it certainly the pieces seem to fit together pretty well.
Yeah.
They would need like a real serious film. But then again, if they had this guy with this kind of talent like Kubrick, why these crappy videos and stuff and all the shadows? Like real serious photographers have examined these shadows and stuff like that. So, and that's a big debate. People say, well, okay, well, you look for, and so then people look on the internet, well, let me look for the shadows and figure it out. But real serious guys have looked at every single photograph, in order, the way these astronauts took the pictures, and have examined the shadows and the lighting, the backlighting. There's one image of an astronaut where the sun is at his back. There's no doubt about that. So his whole front of his face should be black, dark. But it's well lit in the front as well. And these are impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the pictures show evidence of supplemental lighting.
Right.
Because this was a very, very harsh lighting, circumstances, to say the least. Which would have, again, made photography very, very difficult. I mean, the contrasts were just, beyond anything that we experience here on Earth. This is a land of extremes. It's either pitch black or blinding light. It's either boiling hot or freezing cold. So it's there's just so many questions raised by so many aspects of the whole thing, and it's hopefully more and more people will ultimately wake up to just how many parts of the story just don't add up at all.
But how many people spend the time to really look at all these various issues and really think for themselves and think logically and even try and figure it out? Because like I said, I remember as a kid, when when the thing was landing in the water, I remember when that thing crash landed in the water, the splash landing, and they were looking for it. I was a kid. I wanted to see them, come out, and, oh, hey, look, let's clap. But it took so long. I went out to play, and I came back in, and they still hadn't found this thing. And I said, how could they not find it? You know, but the ocean's big. But so the moon is big. The space is big. It's just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there's just no way that such evenly exposed photographs could be taken in that kind of a hostile environment. As you said, the things that are in shadow should be absolutely black, and things that are not should be just very, very bright. And in picture after picture, we can see details in shadows that just absolutely should not be there without supplemental lighting. And obviously, there's no supplemental lighting available on the moon. You have one and only one light source, that shines in one and only one direction.
Well, not really, no, because there was Earthlight too, as well. There was Earthlight hitting the moon, the reflection from the sun on the Earth to the moon, which was very bright. Because when you see inside one of the capsules one time, they have the Earthlight shining through the capsule. So Earthlight is way more brighter than moonlight. So anyway, that's okay. Yeah, I can buy that.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you see the Earth from when they're on the moon, okay, the Earth is the size of the moon, and the Earth would have been. Think about it. The Earth is bigger than the moon. So they made a mistake. The Earth should have been like 3 times or 6 times bigger. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When they were on the moon, they're looking at Earth, and it's the size of the moon from like they're looking at the moon from Earth.
Right.
So they messed up.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking at a much larger object from the very same distance, then obviously the larger object is still going to be larger, proportionally. So yeah, you're absolutely right. My dog is going nuts right now.
That's okay. The audience is going nuts too.
I'm surprised she stayed quiet this long. I guess she didn't want me to get through the whole interview without.
And also, there was no the camera they used didn't have any kind of refrigeration or protective cowling or protective temperature to protect it from the 250 degrees.
Or the batteries on the rover.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah, you're right, because a battery has to have acid to work, liquid, right? So
in the specs for the rover, they said that the batteries could not operate in those conditions. The batteries in the cameras were off the shelf D-size batteries that you can buy at the Kmart,
But if you were to take film and put it in an oven at 250 degrees, it would bubble up.
True. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
It would, and the radiation as well. I mean, these cameras should have been like lead lined or something, And then there's still a problem of changing. How do they change the film? How do they change the rolls of film?
No, they show them doing that. They're doing it out in the dust.
Out in the dust with their gloves,
with the big gloves, man. No. One of the things I saw today was that the gloves that they had like gardening gloves on. They didn't have the gloves that they show you. They were using like gardening gloves, because otherwise there's no way with those gloves, because they showed another thing that in zero atmosphere, if you had those gloves, they're all puffed up, and there's no way you could make a fist even in them.
Yeah, they have to be integrated into the suit, and the whole suit is pressurized. So I don't even know how you would operate the exposure and aperture and focus controls, let alone how you would change the film. I mean, that's just
well. And you know what else is funny? When they did the press conference of the 3 astronauts, they didn't look happy or excited. They were like looking down and dour, And people were asking them, well, what was it like to be on the moon and see the stars? And the one, I can't remember, Neil Armstrong, there was 3. The one guy looks at it and goes, well, I didn't really see any stars.
Yeah, I don't really recall,
notice. Yeah.
I do not recall.
I do not
notice that. You went all the way to the moon and forgot to look at the stars.
Yeah, and there are no stars on the moon. When they took pictures, you don't see a star field at all, no stars. And they go, oh, that's because you need an atmosphere. They'll go, oh, that's because you need an atmosphere to see stars. What?
Well, some people claim that it was because they were taking very short exposures, and that the lens aperture or whatever wasn't open long enough to capture the light from the stars. But that's questionable at best, given how bright these stars should have shined. And of course, the prevailing opinion on that is that it would have been absolutely impossible for NASA to have faked the star field.
Exactly.
Right.
They would have been, they would have had to be in perfect compliance in each and every shot, all from different angles. I mean, it would have just been a technical nightmare trying to accurately represent what the star field would actually look like from all of these different angles. And any astronomer would have immediately been able to pick out any anomalies, so they just figured it was easier to just leave them out, and so you will not find any star fields in any of the pics at all.
Because just imagine when you go camping out in the desert or Mount Charleston, and you look up at the stars, especially if you're from New York. I was a kid from New York. The first time I went to Arizona and I saw the stars, it's mind blowing. Just imagine that from the moon. But they didn't bring a telescope. They didn't bring
binoculars, nothing.
No, they got the Tang. They're working on the Tang.
Yeah.
And they took hundreds and hundreds of pictures. So even if we accept NASA's explanation that they weren't taking long enough exposures to capture the star fields, why didn't they even take a single picture specifically I mean, it must have been just a dazzling sight. You would think they would have wanted to certainly capture that and specifically expose for these star fields in some of their pictures, right?
It would have been overwhelming, to look up and see those clusters of stars. Because when you're out in the desert, man, you see that for the first time. It's not like the sky.
You're not gonna turn your camera up there and take some pictures of that. I mean, come on, that's just.
There's this. Have you guys seen this thing about? Maybe I shouldn't bring this up. But there's a flat Earth theory that the Earth is actually flat. I don't believe that, but they do make a good point. Who's laughing? Is that you, Ed?
No, that was a dog laughing, man. That's how bad it is. Go ahead.
Well, they do make one good point about the Earth rotates, right, in 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
How come it's the same time distance from New York to L.A., 5 hours, about 4.5, 5 hours, from L.A. to New York? If the Earth is rotating, right, if you took off from New York to L.A., then L.A. is coming at you, right?
Yeah, I know, but it's not. Okay, Mike.
Yeah,
you're correct. And if you went into lower Earth orbit, that would make a difference. But just plus, there's a tailwind too. There's a tailwind and there's a headwind. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that the Earth's in that altitude wouldn't matter. It's insignificant.
So if you went up high enough, if you just launched yourself straight up, could you just hover for a certain amount of time and then come down?
That's the point. The guy,
right?
Well, listen. The guy makes the point that remember the guy about a year ago went up 80,000 feet in that weather balloon and jumped down. Okay, it took him about 3.5 hours to go up to 80,000 feet, and he jumped down. Well, in 3.5 hours, he should have landed in the Pacific Ocean, but he landed right where he took off in New Mexico.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he went straight up. It took 3.5 hours for him to go up, and then he jumps out. Takes some time to free fall down, and he landed right roughly where he took off.
Okay, let me tell you something.
But you would think that if the Earth is spinning in that 3.5 hours, he should have landed somewhere in the Pacific Ocean.
But doesn't the Earth's atmosphere travel with it?
How? Or... If the wind blows,
I don't know. I'm
which way?
Yeah, Dave, how? You want to know what, man? One time, and this is stuck in my head forever. Okay, I saw John Travolta when he was a kid, and he was talking about how he was taking flying lessons. This is way back. Welcome Back, Kotter, Boy in the Bubble time. Okay, when he was really young. And he was talking about taking flying lessons, and he would love to fly. And he was talking about how we should be able to fly aircraft into lower Earth orbit, and the rotation of the Earth would make us get to the other end of the country, the other end of the world, in a couple hours. We could fly to Australia in a couple hours. I think it was on Johnny Carson. And Johnny Carson said to him, well, John, if you know this, don't these people, don't they know this? Like, I think he might even have said NASA. He says, don't they know this? And Travolta says, yeah, they should, you know? And I've been looking for that video on YouTube. I could never find it. It was a fascinating explanation of how we should be able to fly into lower Earth orbit, and as the Earth rotates, wind up in Australia like in an hour.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that before, but if Vinnie Barbarino said it, then.
Well, you know what? The guy has a 747 in his driveway.
Yeah, he flies all the time.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford. Did you hear that Harrison Ford just crashed his plane yesterday here on a golf course by Santa Monica or something?
And did you notice how they said he was flying solo, Han Solo?
And
he apparently walked away virtually unharmed, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah, he's okay. He's in okay.
70 years old. They said he's been flying for 20 years, so he learned how to fly when he was in the 50s. You know, there's still hope for us, Dave.
I guess so. Yeah. Well, I just took up guitar 4 months ago. It's my midlife crisis, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay. All right. Well,
I can't afford to get a pilot's license. I got to lower my sights a little bit.
Yeah. And Ed, the other thing about the astronauts, none of them really parlayed that into. Oh, there you go, parlay.
Okay.
Like you never really saw any of them on Johnny Carson or any of the late shows or the talks. The talk show circuits like Mike Douglas or Dick Cavett.
Yeah.
I was too young to really. There was a lot of talk shows back in those days, though, that I'd forgotten about. Yeah, Mike Douglas. I mean, Dinah Shore had a big one during the day. She was kind of the Oprah Winfrey of her time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They never really promoted themselves or wrote books.
No, they wrote some books. And they all seem to be living very well. Because that guy that goes around interviewing them, he kind of ambushes them, says, "Hey, put your hand on the Bible." That guy, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they got punched in the nose, yeah. Oh.
Well, he was being a jerk to him. I mean...
Well, I'd like to see the unedited versions of those interviews, because if he was being a jerk on the parts that he puts out, I can imagine what would cause them to kick him out of their house, But you're right, you would think these guys, these astronauts, did they kind of... This guy just showed up off the street, wants to do an interview with him. They says, yeah, come on in.
Well, he ambushes them at resorts where they're
one of these
talks.
guys invited him into his home. The one that they allege works for the CIA, and his son said, "Hey, maybe we should get the CIA to come out here and wax him." Did you guys see that?
No, what did he say? Did you say the CIA to what?
Dad, maybe we should call the CIA to come out and wax him.
Whoa. I missed that one. Holy cow.
Dave, what do you think? When you see these press conferences, do you think that they were like brainwashed or hypnotized, or you think they're just in on it?
I am losing you. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm asking you.
Here. Oh, you're back. You fade out. You keep fading out on me.
Yeah, I'm asking you about the press conferences. Do you think that they were hypnotized or brainwashed or something, or do you think that they...
The initial one was pretty awkward, I gotta say, which has been on YouTube for years now. You can pull up the when they, which is when he made the comment about the stars, I believe, that was referenced earlier.
Yeah.
And they don't come off as they come off as people who are seem almost ashamed of themselves. I mean, here they are. They've just come back. They're being hailed as these great American heroes. I mean, they are, they're more in the spotlight and more adored than pretty much anybody on the planet at the time. And yet, during their press conference, their body language is just couldn't be more out of line with that. They just seem very, very awkward, like they'd rather be anywhere else than be there and be doing anything else than answering the questions. So, I think their body language in that speaks volumes.
Yeah, and one thing you can't hide is shame. You know, that look of shame on your face and humiliation. Like we were talking about those cops before. Hey, we're going to be dropping some stations. We just dropped the PSN radio. So we'll say goodnight to those guys. We're going to be dropping Talk Superstation as well. But I want to give a plug to Patty Walking Turtle, who's producing for us tonight for the Awake Radio Network on all those stations. And Saturday at 3 p.m. CST Central Time, Where the Wild Things Grow on Awake Radio Network. Mondays 4 p.m. Turtle Talk with Walking Turtle and Barbara Three Crow on Scottish Sovereigns on the Land and Awake Radio Network. So all those shows you can catch Patty Walking Turtle, who is a real saint and helps us out with producing our show and stuff like that. And very fascinating shows that she does on these different stations. So we're getting down to the end of the show. Dave, you want to hang out a little while longer and take some calls?
I don't have too much more time, actually. I got an engagement I got to get to here very soon.
Dave never hangs, but that's okay, man. Listen, Dave, I'm happy to get you, bro. Dude, I love when you come.
I'm always love doing your show. It's it's always a pleasure, and one of the few out there who I never really tosses me a curveball. A lot of the shows I go on, I'll just get these questions just out of left field, and
I hear you. I know, man.
Yeah, I mean, some of these people have their own agenda, and they want to skew everything to fit their own, what view that they're pitching, and I never really get that from you. So I always enjoy doing your show.
No, thank you very much.
I could stay longer, but unfortunately, I thought we were going to be done at 7, so I have another engagement that I need to get to.
No sweat, my friend.
Oh, hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Hey, check out Betsy McGee's work on the Boston bombing. It's pretty interesting.
Betsy McGee?
Betsy McGee, yeah. She's on YouTube.
M-C-G-E-E?
M-C-G-E, yeah. Betsy McGee. She does unbelievable work, and she did a really bunch of cool things on the Boston bombing. Yeah, real good.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
And also, that that Zarnev, his friends, say that that's not him in the courtroom.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're like, that's not him. Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much weirdness surrounding this case, and the whole question of what happened to the older brother and then the friend who was, basically just executed by some kind of FBI hit team or something, in his own home while he was being questioned. There's just so much about it that just reeks to high heaven.
When 2 FBI agents that fell out of a helicopter.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh, yeah. So, it's.
And they were involved in capturing the Zarnev brothers, right?
No, not at all. No, they were guys. They were the guys who went to the house and interviewed the Zarnev.
Oh, that's right. That was they killed that guy. Yeah.
Now, how could that be? How could these? Now, listen. I'm an investigator. 2 FBI agents. You go and interview these guys. You got a tip off from Russia that these 2 brothers, are planning terrorism. You go visit them at their home, and then the biggest case that plops in your jurisdiction that you ever had in your life, the Boston bombing, shows up, and you don't say, gee whiz, did I interview anybody like that? That look like these 2 guys in this picture? Nothing.
They interviewed him for 6 hours, and then they said that he jumped at them. And
No, I'm talking about the 2 FBI agents that fell out of the helicopter. They interviewed the Zarnev brothers before the bombing.
Oh,
They were in their apartment before the bombing. So when the bombing took place, you think they would have had what we should do is we should issue I can solve this. We give the FBI a little pad and a pencil. And every time they go and interview somebody, they write a little note in their pad and pencil. When they see them on TV a month later, they'll know who they interviewed.
Right, yeah.
I'm fascinated by the notion that friends and family are saying that it's not him in the courtroom, because that's a question that's come up. I just posted something about the trial on Facebook today, and that's one of the first questions that come up is, why is the kid going along with this? Why would he allow himself to be railroaded like this?
Hey, remember, Michelle Obama visited a Saudi Arabian kid in the hospital in Boston. Remember that?
Yeah.
And there were pictures of him smiling. He had this big cheesy smile. Michelle Obama went and visited him in the hospital. Some Saudi Arabian prince or something.
Yeah.
And then when they had supposedly they had someone in the courthouse, there was a bomb scare in the Boston courthouse that they evacuated the whole courthouse in Boston.
Today?
No. When the Boston bombing happened, they said we got a suspect, and he's at the courthouse. And then there was a bomb scare, and they evacuated everyone in the.
There was a bunch of bomb scares. There's one at the library too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what were they covering up? What were they hiding?
That kind of stuff happens. A lot of crazy stuff happens during those big false alarms and false calls and weird stuff, and stuff that gets covered up too.
I think they had multiple patsies there, and they just decided to go with the Zarnoff brothers. They were their second or third choice.
Could be.
Quite possible, yeah. Anyway, unfortunately I got to sign off, guys, but it's been a real pleasure, and good luck with the show and all that. And
you got it, Dave. Thank you very much, Dave McGowan, for coming on, man. One of my favorite guys.
Come back. We love you, man.
Yeah, we really do, man.
Anytime. I'd love to do the show. Yeah, it's always a pleasure. So, yeah, I will. We will talk again soon, and you guys have a good weekend.
Good night, brother.
All right. Bye.
Dave McGowan, author of Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, Program to Kill, and Understanding the F Word, which is fascism. You got to understand Dave's work on Program to Kill is a fascinating book where he examines all the famous serial killing murders that went, all the big famous serial killing cases, and he's found a thread through all of them, that he sees that involves, the media, satanic cults, and police involvement, FBI cover-ups, all kinds of stuff. You'll never look at those cases the same way again after reading that book. And there's a YouTube series. If you go on YouTube and just Google Program to Kill, you'll find a series that's based on those books. Dave's not involved in that. But once you watch that, it's almost word for word from the book. There's some stuff added in by the authors of the... it's like 15 hours long. So it's a whole day's or a couple of days research looking into that. Dave McGowan also has several Facebook pages that are devoted to his work. Center for an Informed America is one. Another one is Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon. And then there's several that are called Dave McGowan discussion groups that people just discuss his work and stuff like that and all these different opinions. So Dave's a fascinating guy, and he's a really good guest to have on, and I love his work, and I definitely promote it every chance I get. So if you want to call in with some comments and remarks, we'll take your calls at 702-605-4894, or you can Skype in at ed.opperman. Maybe we'll take a little break and we'll come back. Take a nice little commercial break for 5 minutes, and we'll come back with more of the Opperman Report.
If you're looking for essential oils, stop by and check out Essentially Tammy on Facebook. She is Young Living Essential Oils Independent Distributor. These 100% therapeutic grade oils help support the body's natural functions. You can click on her website posted on Essentially Tammy, that's T-A-M-I, to see the current deals and check out the benefits of oils such as frankincense, joy, valor, lemon, thieves, Panaway, and many more. Email Jocotami, that's Jocatami @yahoo.com, or call 352-239-8546. That's 352-239-8546. Hey, don't forget good old Amanda at Pacific West Bamboo. Pacific West Bamboo, 503-839-8126. You can reach her at demroots@oppermail.com. Pacific West Bamboo, your number one source for timber, construction, and craft-grade bamboo poles, plants, products, and more. They specialize in eco-friendly reclaimed wood products for the home and garden. They're located in Portland, Oregon, servicing the Northwest for over 10 years. They can be reached at 503-839-8126. That's 503-839-8126. Her Facebook page is Pacific West Bamboo. They can and do ship nationwide, and they're currently getting a new line of bamboo flooring, veneers, and laminates made from Guadawa bamboo, one of the world's strongest bamboos, grown and produced and manufactured in Central America using only economically and environmentally friendly practices and standards. Good old Mike Ray at infinityhomeplans.com. Check out Infinity Home Plans and Design Services, your resource for 3D and 2D draftsman services. They offer a multitude of products, including stock home plans, 2D digital drawings, 3D models, renderings, and more. That's infinityhomeplans.com. Hey, don't forget emailrevealer.com. That's my website, emailrevealer.com. And we offer all different kinds of services. Current place of employment locate. Let's say you're trying to locate where your ex-husband or your ex-wife is working so you can collect on child support. You contact us, we can locate their place of employment for you and help you collect on that child support. Let's say you think that your husband or your wife is cheating on you. Give us their email address and we can trace it back to online dating websites and dating services. So we have a multitude of services on emailrevealer.com. Hey, don't forget the New World Mexican Women. Okay, now you just Google New World Mexican Women. You can find their book where they first describe their love letters to their men and their sons and their uncles and their brothers who have traveled from South America to North America to work as migrant workers. But the women down in this town there in Guerrero, Mexico, they want their men to come back. So they've written these beautiful love letters and they've put them all in this beautiful coffee table book. First, the letters are written in Spanish, handwritten. You can see pictures of the people writing the books. And then it comes on after that, and it's typewritten in English. And then also, too, the second half of the book is teaching you how to make authentic Mexican jewelry from these New World Mexican women. You can find their book on Lulu.com. It's only $19, or you can download the digital edition for free. That's New World Mexican Women, and it's a two-part book where first part is the love letters, and the second part is the making the handmade jewelry, the authentic Mexican jewelry. But you can also contact them too as well if you want to get a deal on wholesale jewelry from Mexico from these women.